Okay. Zevachim. Zion. Regarding all of these, the Kohanim may vary the manner of their consumption to eat them roasted, overcooked, or cooked, and to add to them non-sacred spices and spices of truma. These are the words of Reb Shimon, and Reb Meir says one may add spices of truma to them so that they're not exposed to truma to disqualification. Said Reb Shimon, if you see oil being distributed in the courtyard, you need not inquire what it is. It's either the remainder of the way from mincha offerings of Yerushalayim, or the log of oil of a mitzorah. If you see oil being poured upon the fires, you need not inquire what it is. It's either the remaining wafer mincha offerings of Kohanim or the mincha offerings of the anointed Kohen God, anointed Kohen, for oil cannot be donated. And Tarfon says one can donate oil. If the blood of a katos splattered on a cloth, it must be washed. Although Scripture speaks only about those katos offerings which are eaten, as it is said, it shall be eaten in a holy place. Both the katos offering which is eaten and the inner katos offering require washing, as it is said, the law of the katos, there is one law of katos offering.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So, right. So the thing with the katos offering is that there is a ritual obligation to wash the clothing from any blood that gets splattered on. It has to be washed inside the azara. Okay, and this distinguishes it from other korbanos, which we're going to learn today. Okay, so chatas pesula, but if the chatas turns out to have been pasul, okay, ein damatan kibus, then whatever blood was splattered on clothing, you can take it home, send it to the local dry cleaners or whatever, not a problem. Because it's only blood that comes out of a valid chatas that has this requirement. And it doesn't matter whether the chatas once was okay or it never was okay. Okay, let's just clarify. Well, if it was kosher, it means it stayed overnight. In other words, the blood stayed overnight, I believe. Let me just be sure about that. Yeah, the blood stayed overnight. Instead of sprinkling it on the day, it got left on the side and never got sprinkled. Okay, v'shenitma, or the blood became tameh, or v'sheyatza, or it was taken outside of the azara. So it was once okay, but then it became pasul later. The Ezo he shilohaya shasa kosher, and which is the one that doesn't have there was never okay. Shenishkata chutz tazmana v'chutz limkoma v'shikiblu pesulin v'zarko istama. So anything where there was a machshava pigul or outside the makom, or somebody a non-kohen received it, or a non-kohen threw the blood. So interesting. I think that last statement, Vizarku is. I think that there's some places some editions that don't have this Vizarku, because Vizarku is already after the fact. That's the last stage of that the blood is useful. So once it's been thrown, that's something that once actually did have a shasa kosher. It did have a time when it was kosher, and then somebody messed it up by throwing it in the wrong place.
Outside its place, or that which disqualified people received or through its blood.
Yeah, received it or through its blood. The phrase "or through its blood" is questionable over here, whether it should actually be in this place, because we're talking about this blood, the blood that stains a garment, was up until now was this is listed among the things that never had a time that it was kosher, and the zrika is like after it's been shechted, after it's been carried and it's walked to the mizbeach, that did have a shasa kosher, which is interesting. I'm not sure why that's in this list of things that we can. There's some discussion here about why it's part of this list, but tachlis. If right, the halacha that we're going to come out with, a bottom line, is that it doesn't matter how or when the blood became pasul. if it got onto a garment, that garment can be washed anywhere. It doesn't have to be in the azara.
Quite a bit of a commentary here. So,
Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's very long. It's really very.
Okay. Well, feel free to follow up on that and get some more depth in that. Meanwhile, Mishnah Gimel. Nitaz minat savar ala beged. Now, what happens if he shechted the animal and the blood sprayed straight from the animal's neck onto his clothing? So it hasn't yet been received in a klishares. This does not require laundry. I mean, it does require laundry, but he can take it to the local dry cleaners. He doesn't have to do it in the azara. Okay. Min hakerin umin hayesod. So what Mishna's Gimel is telling is that it's dafka blood that has been received properly in the klishares and is being taken to be sprinkled. That's the time between when it's been caught in the klishares and when it's being sprinkled on the altar. That's when you have this requirement of laundry.
Right.
Okay. But so if it's sprinkled if it's splashed straight from the animal's neck onto his clothing, it's not in the parasha. Mina keren or mina yesod. If it's splattered off the corner of the altar of the mizbech, or mina yesod, or from the base, that's einota and kibbutz, because that's now after the fact of throwing.
Has to be used. The blood that received in a vessel and fits for sprinkling. That's what I'm saying. Those are the two conditions.
Right. So it's got so once it's been splashed off the mizbech, its work is done. And if he gets some backsplash from what he put onto the mizbech, that's not what we're talking about. Okay. Nishbach ala ritzpah. If the blood fell on the ground and he gathered it back up, it's still not good for sprinkling, because if it has to be caught on in the klishares, not that he picked it up off the ground. Okay. So in other words, for the dam shchita, went from the animal's neck onto the ground and then he scooped it up into the klishares. That's puzzle. You can't use that as blood for zrika. And it's own kibbutz. Ein taon kibbutz ela dam at shiniskabel b'kli v'ra'u lehazaya. The only thing that gets that needs laundry inside the azara is blood that was accepted inside a klishares and is suitable for sprinkling. Nitaz al ha'or ad shelo hufshat. Now, what happens if remember you've got let's say you've got an ola next to you, and the ola has to be skinned.
Right.
Okay. So the skin is obviously going to be turned into clothes, shoes, whatever. But right now the ola offering is still just like next to the schatas, and he caught the blood in this klishares, and then oops, a bit of it fell onto the animal's hide but they haven't yet skinned it. Okay, enotan kibbutz. That's not called. That doesn't require laundry inside the azara because it's not yet a skin. It's still an animal. Okay. Mishe hufshat. Once it has been skinned, town kibbutz divrei Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yehuda says that this is now considered a beged, even though it's still a raw hide and hasn't yet been processed. It still needs to be washed inside the azara because this is being prepared for clothing. Okay, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Av mi shehufshat eno taon kibbutz. Even after it's been skinned, it does not need washing. Why? Because as long as he hasn't processed it into usable leather, it's still not makabel tuma. It's still not a kli. It's not yet clothing. So this is not. It's dafka on a beged that we're talking about, that it has to get kibbutz.
It's not a finished product yet, so it can't makabel tuma.
Not a finished product, correct. Eino taon kibbutz elo makom hadam. The only place that actually needs kibbutz is the place where there's a stain. You don't have to do the rest of the garment as well. But davashu ra'oi lekabel tuma v'ra'oi lekibbutz. And it must be something that's makabel tuma, and that's the important point over here. That it's got to be a beged that gets tumas begadim, and it must be suitable for washing. Now, Ra'il Kibus means that what they're coming to exclude a Kli Eitz. Even though a Kli Eitz has got is able to be Makabel Tumah, you can't wash it. So therefore, Dam Chatas that sprays on a Kli Eitz doesn't require laundry.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Mishnah Daled. Echad habeged, echad hasak, echad haor. It makes no difference whether we're talking about a cloth or sacking or leather. Tonim kibus b'makom kadosh. They all need to be washed in the azara. Ushviras kli cheres. Now, if you ate a chatas, if the kohen ate a chatas and he ate it in earthenware, so now the taste of the chatas gets into the earthenware, and remember after the time is over, the next morning, that kli has now absorbed the time of nosar. It's asa to eat it, and there's a specific din again by the chatas. You have to get rid of it entirely. You have to break it inside the makom kadosh, because that's just like with tumah and tara. The only way to get rid of the tumah in a clay vessel, in an earthenware vessel, is to break it. So similarly with the chatas, the only way that you can dispose of this is by breaking it, and it must be broken inside the azara. Okay. Umarika ushtifa b'kli nechoshes. Now, what happens if you cooked it inside a metal kli? Okay, the metal kli now has also this Mishnah, by the way, is very important for kashrus. We learn a lot of principles of kashrus from the fact that from what we do with the chatas over here. Because you cook the chatas inside a metal pot, it's got a taste of chatas inside the walls of the pot, and overnight that chatas becomes nosar, which is aser b'din kares. Okay, so it has to be mirika. It has to be
purged.
It has to be purged and rinsed. The makom kadosh. All of the kashering of the metal kli also has to be done inside the makom kadosh. Zeh chomer b'chatas mikodshei kodashim. And this is a specific rule that applies only to chatas. It's a stringency of chatas that does not apply to other kodshei kodshim.
Interesting. I was just thinking that in all the time that I learned with Rabbi Lublin also about the base of Mikdash and all the places where everything was, they never talked about some of these places where you watch this and you do this and you do that. I had no idea where that is in the.
That's true. There must have been a kitchen. There must have been a kitchen somewhere. because like all of the holy meat has to be eaten inside the azara. It cannot be taken out. Logically, it follows that there must have been a kitchen.
Right. So I look for more pictures and see if I can find anything, because I never remember learning anything about this. Where the thing is, where they would watch this.
I never really paid attention to that either. But when we come up on Maseches Midos, that's got like the whole layout of the Mikdash, and
but I've never seen that. Even in the pictures, I've never seen the whole layout sketch. All right, we'll see what comes up. All right, that's it. That's it. I think.
Yeah,
right?
That's it. Yes, hey.
So, okay. Yes, hey, Daled. I have Daled.
I've got hay.
Okay. If the limbs of the valid, all the offerings became mixed with limbs of blemish, all the offerings, the Rebbe Eliezer says the head of one of them was offered, and all the heads should be offered. If the leg of one of them was offered, all the legs should be offered. All the sages say, even if all of them have been offered except for one, it should be taken out to the place of burning. If blood mixed with water, it has the color of blood, it is valid. If mixed with wine, we view it as if it were water. If mixed with blood of an animal or blood of a beast, we view it as if it were water. Rabbi Yehuda says blood cannot nullify blood. If it mixed with the blood of invalidated offerings, it should be poured into the canal. If it was mixed with draining blood, it should be poured into the canal. Whereas Eliezer validates that he did not take counsel and apply the blood to the altar, it is valid. Okay. I know we have four new things that we're doing, but I don't know where you want to put them in, so you'll let me know.
Well, let's go Avos.
Okay, Abbas, we have Hey, Yud, Aleph. There are four types of natures. One who is easy to natures. One is who is easy to anger and appease. His reward is offset by his loss. One who is difficult to anger and difficult to appease. His loss is offset by his reward. One who is difficult to anger and easy to appease is a pious person, and one who is easy to anger and difficult to appease is a wicked person. There are four types of students. One who is quick to grasp and quick to lose. His reward is offset by his loss. One who is slow to grasp and slow to lose. His loss is offset by his reward. One who is quick to grasp and slow to lose is a wise person, and one who is slow to grasp and quick to lose is a bad lot. There are four types of charitable donors. One who desires that it will give, but others should not give. Looks disparagingly at the money of others. One who desires that others should give, but will not give, is stingy with his own money. One who desires that it will give and others should give is a pious person, and one who desires that he will not give and others should not give is a wicked person. Okay. We're on to Kesubos.
Shavuos, yeah.
Shavuos, okay. Others, oaths are, sorry?
Yeah.
Oaths are of two types, which are in reality four. Awareness of tumor is of two types, which are in reality four. Transfers on the Sabbath are of two types, which are in reality four. And appearances of the Saharis affliction are of two types, which are in reality four. Whenever there is awareness in the beginning, and awareness at the end, and unawareness in the between, he is liable to a variable sin offering. If there was awareness in the beginning, but there was no awareness at the end, the he-goat which is sacrificed inside and Yom Kippur suspend punishment until he becomes aware of it and brings a variable sin offering. If there was no awareness at the beginning, but there was awareness at the end, the he-goat which is sacrificed outside and Yom Kippur atone, as it was said, aside from the sin offering of the atonements for what this one atones, this one atones. Just as the inner one atones only for a case in which there was awareness, so the outer one atones only for a case in which there was awareness.
Okay. All right, then Kesubos.
Okay, Yud Aleph. Everyone can be compelled to go up to Eretz Yisrael, but no one can be compelled. I missed the page. No one can be compelled to go out. Everyone can be compelled to go up to Yerushalayim, but no one can be compelled to go out. Both men and women, if one married a woman in Eretz Yisrael and divorced her in Eretz Yisrael, he gives her the coinage of Eretz Yisrael. If he married a woman in Eretz Yisrael and divorced her in Cappadocia, he gives her the coinage of Eretz Yisrael. If he married a woman in Cappadocia and divorced her in Eretz Yisrael, he gives her the coinage of Eretz Yisrael. Rav Simon ben Gamliel says he gives her the coinage of Cappadocia. If he married a woman in Cappadocia and divorced her in Cappadocia, he gives her the coinage of Cappadocia. Okay.
And Nadarim.
Okay. All equivalent terms used in the Nadarim are like Nadarim, and all those using Karayim are like Karayim, and oaths like and oaths are like oaths, and in the Nazaritic declaration are like the Nazaritic declaration. One who says to another, "I am restricted from you by a neder, I am separated from you, or I remove from you, in that I shall not eat, or that I shall not taste, is bound. I am excommunicated from you." Rav Akiva hesitated with this, indicating stringency. If one says like the vows of the wicked, he has vowed concerning a Nazarite, an offering, and an oath. Like the vows of the scrupulous, he has not said anything, and like the devotional vows, he has vowed concerning a Nazarite and an offering. One who says to another, Konam, Koach, or Konas, these are equivalents for Korban. Kerech, these are equivalents of Kerem, Naziak, or Baziak. These are the equivalents of Nazir, Shavusa, and Shakuka. Or one who swore using the term Mosa, these are equivalent for Shavua. One who said
that's two. Good one in Kesubos.
And we'll go back to the. I'm sorry?
Okay, Masters, hey base.
Okay, all right. Okay, nice. Okay. If one uproots seedlings from his own and plants them in his own, he is exempt. If he brought them from while attached to the ground, he is exempt. If he gathered in order to send them to his fellow, he is exempt. But Eliezer ben Ariah says if the like of them is sold and they start in the street, they are liable. If one uproots turnips or radishes from his own and plants them in his own for seed, he is liable because they're in their threshing floor, and that is their threshing floor. When onions strike roots in the upper story, they become clean from uncleanness. If debris fell on them and they are uncovered, they are planted in the field. A person may not sell his produce once it has reached the tithing season to someone who is not trustworthy. In regard to Maisris, one is in the 7th year. to someone who is not trustworthy in regard to the seventh year. But if it ripens, he may take the ripe ones and sell the rest. Okay.
One more.
A person may not sell his straw, olive peat, or grape residue to someone who is not trustworthy in regard to maasros for him to extract the juice from them. If he extracted them, he is liable with the maasros, but is exempt from truma because he who sets aside truma has in mind the broken at the sides and what is inside the straw. Okay. Right. We are Nigayim or
Still in Ohalos?
Holios? Okay.
Yeah, last one of Ohalos.
Okay. 10 places do not have the law of dwellings of idolaters. The tents of Arabs, huts, lean-tos, storage huts, stomach awnings, a guard shack, the open areas of a courtyard, a bathhouse, an armory, and a military camp. Hadran Alak.
Hadran Alak, Masefes Ohalos.
Nagayim. Okay. And appearances of the Gayim are two that are four. Baharat is bright like snow. Secondary to it is like the lime of the sanctuary. Ses is like the membrane of an egg, and secondary to it is like white wool. These are the words of Ramea. But if it say to say ses is like white wool, secondary to it is like the membrane of an egg. The reddish version of the snow white nega appears like wine mixed with snow. The reddish version of the lime colored nega is like blood mixed with milk. These are the words of Rabbi Yishmael, and Rabbi Akiva says the red version of both of them is like the color of wine mixed with water, except that the red tinge of the snow is bright, whereas that of lime is duller. Okay, all right, and we are
done. And I'm gonna run.
Shiny. Don't we have Shiny? Oh, that's next week.